There gets to be a time in someone's career where you need to kind of calculate where your time is spent or invested, where that time is more valuable. Something I've been considering here of late. It is the middle of July 2025. Greasing up the loader. That's one of the reasons you barely see me anymore. I don't release many videos because of my time. Where is my time more valuable to me and my family? And that time I've been finding is not in YouTube or editing YouTube videos, recording videos. It takes extra time to do my work when I'm recording. And to produce a good video, it takes a lot of time to edit that video. It's really become apparent since I've changed careers. Now, coming up close to a year ago, about 11 months ago, I quit my engineering career and went out on my own, started my own business. Since then, I'm now working for a different employer, and my time for myself, I'm finding to be best invested in this new career, not in YouTube. Considering is Firewood's production and sales even worth my time? Although my family does enjoy it, so that's another consideration. I don't make a ton of money. I make some money on Firewood production, but also there's a lot of time invested in Firewood. And kind of as I alluded to, I make some money on YouTube, and I have since I was monetized back in 2020, but it's not a lot, especially when I'm not producing videos and not producing or spending investing the time into the editing of the videos and making them clear and well and enjoyable for you guys. Well, I'm creating this video today to not necessarily say goodbye, not say I'm done doing YouTube, just to say that you won't see me as much because my time is more valuable to me invested elsewhere. I've got multiple videos that I'll sprinkle out here in the near future, few months, on things I've already recorded from this past winter and spring that I have not had a chance to edit yet, including that Japa right there. But in the meantime, figured to give you an update from what's going on in real life here in July of 25. Firewood production has drastically increased because of the Japa 365. I'm still trying to figure out if I want to keep that in the woodyard. If you haven't been aware, Metsa Machines loaned this to me to produce videos on my channel here and kind of show it off what it produces for Firewood. And since I got it last November, Metsa Machines is no longer the nationwide importer of Japa firewood processors. So Metsa Machines is attempting to sell off all the remaining inventory, including this one. They have a few more, I believe, as of now in stock. I'm not producing any more content on the Japa to promote Metsa Machines or Japa, but I'm still using it, hence why you see this little production facility in the backyard. And I just want to show, my goal of this today is to show kind of what I've been doing with it to increase my production. Since January or February, I really got to using this machine a lot, and now I've run a lot of firewood through it. I bought a load of logs in December of 24, and I just late June finished processing that entire load of logs. Early July, because I had found out that at some point this processor was going to be leaving us, and I decided to order another load of logs, and that's that right there. So we've already produced a good 3/4 of the load of logs. The load came out to 1 stick past here, so about to this point in the dirt. That's how far that load of logs came out. So we've produced a ton of firewood already from the second load of logs already that we purchased this year. The first one was in December of 24, and the second one was in July of 25, early July of 25, and now we're August 2nd today recording this video, and we've produced a ton. We've also picked up a bunch of IBC totes. I got another batch waiting there that I already started tapping into. At this moment in time of August 2nd, I think we have about 73 IBC totes in the woodyard. A lot, way more, but it's the efficiency that we've gained since we've gotten the Japa in the woodyard and also the IBC totes has been huge. I've been stacking them here on the far edge. You can see they fit underneath my old wood stacks here. You can see that video where I built those right here. I'll link it in the description below and also in the card above. One of my first videos that continues to produce. But they're tall enough where I could fit these 275 gallon IBC totes filled with firewood underneath. The last 3 are my oldest, but these more recent ones here are newer filled. You can see the difference in color. And then down here I've got, I don't even know how many it is. Let me do a quick count. Is that another 34 totes stacked here? Overall I have 50, I believe it's 53 totes filled and stacked. We're going to produce some more today. 53 totes, just over 42 to 43 face cord of business firewood in stock. I've got a bunch of used steel that my neighbor had pulled off of their shop a couple years ago, and they gave it to me, and I've been just covering my piles of wood with it. And these, because it's been so dry, I have been leaving them exposed to kind of get a pre-bake per se before I cover them, before rain comes. So needless to say, the firewood production has been awesome and fast, and that firewood processor has made a huge difference. All right, so I'm going to show you just kind of a little bit what we're doing here for production, and then I'm going to produce a little firewood, and then we'll call it a day in this video. But I just want to give you a heads up on kind of what's going on here in my life. I'm still trying to figure out exactly where I want to spend my time. Do I want to spend more of my time more on YouTube because it is time consuming? Do I want to continue doing firewood stuff because my family enjoys it, my wife enjoys it. She's a professional as well, but she likes to come out here and just do a mindless activity, stacking firewood as I produce it. And I like it too. It's good exercise. And I feel value to me in showing my kids how to run a small business, and they're involved. This summer they're off, they're stacking the bags or creating bags. We've sold over 350 bags this summer or this year so far, and my kids have made at least half of them, and they're 9 and 12 now. So being able to get their hands dirty and doing things, physical activity, and then there's fruits to the labor. I pay them a little bit of money for that work, so there's value there too. And then there's value that I provide in the people that are vacationing here in the Northwoods of Wisconsin, and people really enjoy there's value what they get from purchasing the firewood from me when it's dry, where other people in the area do not sell dry firewood. So I'm trying to figure out the value perceived versus the value of my time in producing firewood. So that's a It's a deep topic, lots of thoughts, lots of driving thoughts. But here we are, we're still producing firewood, so we got to get through this load. Let's take a look at the operation we got going on right now. As I showed, that stack of logs was out to about that line right there. So we've produced a ton of firewood already from this load. What we're doing with the tractor is taking the logs off. I've got a little staging area right here where I take the tractor, set the logs here, and they kind of sloped, that ramp is kind of sloped down into the log lift from the Japa. And from there, I've got to put a tent up because sometimes it's been hot, so having some shade while I'm running the processor is useful. Log lift will lift the logs in, run them through the processor. I've got a firewood a tote that I built out of pallets right behind where I'm putting all the cookies. I've also got the county line processor sitting in here that I'm using for splitting any of the parts and pieces that don't want to go through the 4-way or the 6-way wedge in the Japa. And then we've got our tote on the receiving end of the conveyor and our stacking station. So we've got 2 IBC totes that we stack here, ready to get loaded from the receiving station. There's times where I completely fill this bin with firewood up to the top. Other times my wife will stand here, take these boards off, and stack as I'm splitting and processing. It just depends on the situation, what we got going on. Like right now, I'm just going to produce firewood from without her here, and then we'll come back later and just stack it. This operation has drastically improved our efficiency. There have been no way with this county line wood splitter, there have been no way of me getting all this firewood produced in the time I have. We've kind of kept track, not fine-tuned track, but we kind of figure that we can fill 2 totes in about 45 minutes or so. It really depends on her stacking ability and how fast she can stack. But if I'm operating and she's stacking, we can do it in about an hour and about 45 minutes. 2 totes is about a face cord and a half or half a cord. Now, I think if we had 2 guys on the stacking end, guy running the processor and a person running the infeed, pushing logs onto the log lift, you could probably drop that down to doing a full cord in an hour or so. But there is some time in efficiently running the processor and then loading logs on the lift, getting them on the infeed. Then there's also time that has to be considered, and I've been getting better at selecting my logs. Anything over probably that big, that's probably 10, 12 inches in diameter right there. That's almost too big for this processor, for what my desires are, especially with the 6-way. If I had an 8-way wedge, maybe it could be bigger, but anything bigger, the more wedge there is, the harder it is to push the log through for the Japa. I've had, especially this hard maple, if there's some knots, and if it's stringy, and then it's also big, it will not go through the processor efficiently and will most likely jam. So there's better efficiency in just using the smaller stuff and then saving the big stuff for later on. Maybe just using the county line. Luckily, there's not a lot of big stuff on this pile. I think I've been putting the big stuff way over there. There's only probably 4 or 5 from this whole load so far, and I maybe see 1 more, maybe 2 that I'll have to pull out of there. Especially if it's hard maple. I have been getting pretty efficient on swapping the knives. So I got the 6-way and then I got the 4-way laying there, and it's not that difficult to swap the knife midstream. So right now I've got the 6-way in there. I'll probably flip back to the 4-way when I start here because of the size of the logs that I got here. Maybe when I get this one again, I'll bring the 6-way back in, these 2. But most of this will be all 4-way wedge. So it's just a consideration to be had. This processor is signed by Adam of Hometown Acres. He broke it in for me, and I'm continuing to break it in, I guess. Luca comes out here and enjoys playing because he thinks there's rodents underneath these pallets. And you see here's the deposits. Carries a ball out here and then gets excited looking for rodents. Leaves the balls behind. All right, let's get to work. The day is not getting any younger. One of the benefits I did not talk about when it comes to the kiddos is that they're actually using this thing now. They've come out here multiple nights here in the last couple weeks, and I help load logs, but they run the processor and they're getting used to that. So getting that work ethic and understanding what it takes to earn money and have provide value to other people. And this is part of that, because then they go out and pull the money out of the firewood stand. I've paid them, as I mentioned, when they're producing the bundles, but it's kind of like a family activity. Wife's Misty stacks, I run the processor, kids are helping, bouncing back and forth. It's a nice family activity here at home, providing value to other people, providing value for ourselves. So that is one thing that I didn't mention, but it's something to consider when it comes to producing firewood and selling it here in the yard. I think there's some value to it. So it's all started with this Japa. So that's something I need to consider too about just purchasing it. One last note. I do want to thank Metsa Machines for this opportunity to have this in my wood yard. They put some trust in me being local and having a small YouTube channel to produce videos. I've got, I think, one or two more, including this one, that is with respect to this Japa firewood processor. Maybe more in the future if it sticks around in the wood yard, who knows. But as I mentioned earlier, I'm not going to be producing as much videos. I'm not going to be editing them. I'm going to edit them and provide value when I can, when I feel it's necessary, and then I'm interested in doing it. But again, thank you to Metsa Machines. I know they didn't want me to really produce any more promotional information about this Japa, but I just want to thank them. Check them out if you're interested in buying any of the processors that they have in stock yet. You can even buy this one if I don't get to it first. And yeah, they've got trailers too. I need to get one of those at some point for all of the garbage that comes off these machines. Let's get moving. Some oversized stuff here. fast, I guess would be the way to say it. I found that if I don't cut the next one until the splitting has been finished, then I know that it is ready to go. And then additionally, I don't start cutting the next one, or I don't let up the bar until I know that that chunk is settled nicely down in the chamber. Sometimes it'll get in there crooked and then cause a bunch of problems. I wait until it's sitting nicely, and then I push up on the bar. Bend down to look and making sure the last piece is at 16. Ideally, I'll look when it's back here at the 30 mark on the tape measure. But sometimes I don't.